Welcome, everyone. It's Jenny here with 4AR People, and we're going to talk about the crime bill today. And I've got a friend here with me. This is Richard Walton. He is a former corrections officer at Cummins, which is part of the Arkansas Department of Corrections, a state prison in Grady, Arkansas. And we're just going to chat about his experience as a former corrections officer there and get his take on some of these policy proposals that are in the crime bill. Thank you, Richard, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Anytime.
Tell me where you're from, Richard.
I'm from Crossett, Arkansas. Crossett, USA.
How long did you stay in Crossett?
I stayed in Crossett since I've been, I want to say nine or 10.
Okay.
10, yeah. I moved from Illinois. That's where I moved from.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what town now. I was young, so don't ask me. But I can't remember. But I was born in California, and I moved around a
Same.
little bit. Hmm?
I was too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Berkeley.
Oh, you're in Northern California.
Mhm. Yeah. Ended up in Crossett and went to high school there and did a little college at UAM. And then I ended up working for the state. And now I work for Get Loud, Arkansas. And it's been a wonderful experience. I've been learning a lot of things. You don't know what you really missing until you're into it, until you know what's going on out here. And now that I've been around it, I realize that hey, we gotta get out here and get to voting. We gotta make some changes around here.
So one big thing, Richard, that we have heard regarding this big criminal justice package that the governor has proposed alongside Senator Ben Gilmore and Representative Jimmy Gazaway, who are the Senate and House sponsors of this bill. One of the things that they have touted about it is this truth in sentencing reform that's provided in the bill. And so I think a lot of people think that when people get sentenced to prison for a particular crime, that they're going to serve all of their sentence. And so the governor during her press conference talked about how that's not the case, and Arkansas releases prisoners way before their full sentence is served. And so they're going to take this hard line with this crime bill and this whole category of violent crime, and they've listed those out. Would going forward, anybody convicted of those violent crimes would be required to serve 100% of that sentence. And I'll just be upfront. I don't have any experience with criminal justice policy. This is kind of my first time diving into it. And so I have a lot to learn. And
me too.
I think I'm one of those people that, like, as a member of the public, I hear, hey, we're going to require that all of these people convicted of violent crimes serve this 100% term. And that sounds reasonable to me. That sounds good to me. And then what I learned over the course of it running in the Senate and then the House is that there's actually some problems with that, according to people opposed to it, because like federal sentencing, for example, you can, even if you have like the most violent crime, you can still be eligible for early release after serving 85%. And the opponents of the bill have explained that, saying, well, it gives people incentive when they're incarcerated to actually have good behavior and, contribute to whatever it's like, being in prison, that population, and that we want to incentivize good behavior for prisoners. So that's kind of a really interesting nugget, I think, and something that maybe you can speak to because you're a former corrections officer. So just talk about that. Talk about what you think about the 100% requirement, and then talk some about, people's motivation and why it's important or not important for prisoners to have good behavior or to be incentivized to do that.
Well, like you say, I think when you when you want to do something like that and pursue 100% of the time, it really does take away from my experience. I don't think that that's the route we should go. What reason would I have to wanna behave or try to be rehabilitated in a system that's going to do that to you?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would help, from my experience being in there and knowing what's going on. There's already so many things that you have to go through to get out anyway. So yeah, I just don't think that's a good route to go. Let's say I have uh a 10-year stretch to do and I've got to do 100% of that. Why would I even waste my time listening to anybody in there? You know what I mean? And then I think that also puts the workers in more danger, if you ask me.
Right.
Because now you have people in there who really don't care.
Right.
I'm not getting out no time soon anyway. So I don't think they thought about that. I don't think they thought about the safety of the people when they people working there when they were running that.
And that's interesting you say that, because that's also something we've heard from opponents of the bill, is that like part of this proposal is that they're going to build another prison at some point in time to make room for all of these people that they presume to lock up more and more people and for longer times. But someone said that the department can't even staff appropriately the prisons that they have now. And so they're already struggling to fill those positions. Why do you think that might be the case? Like, why do you think people might be leaving that profession?
It's a tough profession in itself. Environment, the mental aspect of it all, the things you see, you have to normalize stuff you wouldn't usually normalize to work in an environment like that. But yeah, as far as short staff, I've been through that plenty of years. So yeah, I agree. I don't know why they want to build another prison if they can't, staff the ones they have now. And it does have an effect. It's harder to be able to maintain the type of control you want to with staff, and also it's more presents a more dangerous environment because you can't really pay attention to the things you need to because of being understaffed. And it's been a problem for years. So I don't know how to solve it. I think that you definitely should offer a higher pay, because it's a real serious job. You're really putting your life on the line, So that's one thing they could do. But yeah, I mean, building prisons isn't the problem. We need to focus on what can we do to keep people out of prison.
Right.
If you ask me, that the legislation should be more focused on that than anything.
Yeah.
Because if you focused on that, then you wouldn't have the problems we have now.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I've heard the bill sponsors argue that I guess that's what's important about these programs and this parole reform that they've included in the bill is like, well, we're going to try to keep people from going back to prison to reduce those recidivism rates. I heard in the Senate that if this bill was implemented perfectly and flawlessly, that it would really only drop our violent crime rate in Arkansas by 2% at the most. And we've had this like explosion of crime, and we lock people up at a higher rate and for longer than 46 other states. So, or 45 other states. So we ranked 46 ourselves. And, it's like, if that worked to reduce crime, then we should be improving and lowering those crime rates, but we're not. We're going in the opposite direction. So I agree with that assessment that like that's not really the angle to take. And And I think it's a harder sell to the public, right? It's a harder sell to Arkansans who don't understand the nuance and how difficult it is, one, to provide programs for people to keep them from going to prison in the first place. It's a long-term, solution and policy.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. But as far as let me see, I want to make sure I say this the right way. I don't know if rehabilitation is the goal,
Mm.
You ask me.
Yeah,
I don't
talk
know.
about that.
I mean, there are programs in there already, but like I say, the main thing we need to focus on is the long-term solution of why is crime higher in Arkansas, and focus on the areas in Arkansas where crime is.
Yeah. And I know I said like neither of us is a policy expert, but do you have things that you think lawmakers should be focusing on instead of just locking more people up for longer?
We should turn our focus to the neighborhoods that the crime is going on in. I think and let's say some of those like definitely in Little Rock, there are certain neighborhoods that think there should be more of a presence. But I'm new to this, so I don't know, but I definitely know that building more prisons isn't the solution, especially when they're already short staffed, and then you don't even have a solution to that problem of filling the prisons with the staff that they should have.
Right.
And I think that would be a bigger help more than anything, is focus on getting more employees in the door. And like I said, I also being there, I also think they definitely deserve more than what they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is like removing ways that prisoners can be incentivized to have good behavior endangers officers and staff that are already working. And then additionally, those staff are already experiencing maybe more danger because there are fewer people already on staff. So there's already a situation that makes it more dangerous. It's already inherently a dangerous job. And then it's more dangerous because they're understaffed. And then they're going to expand and still not know how to staff those positions. So, I mean, that's a big question that I've had. It's like, well, say they go forward with this, like, what if nobody wants to work there? What do you do?
Yeah, I know, right? What do you do? What
What do
are
you
they gonna
do?
do?
Do
What
you
are they gonna do?
still send people there if there's no, I mean, like,
I
you
mean, you
gotta
have
staff a
to.
prison.
You would have to, right? I assume, but like I say, I know. And they say they have people waiting on the beds at the new prison.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, but and then also, I know this bill also talks about 250 miles is the first they'll. I think that's correct. First, they'll keep you away from your family. But when you think about Arkansas, that's like that's like say from Camden to West Memphis
Yep.
to go see a loved one. So I also need to think that would be a help when you put people closer to family. Because when, on the opposite side of when you're in there, it's really, if you don't have anybody on the outside, it's tough. You know what I mean? It's real tough. That's what a lot of people, I think, don't know. Is on the other side of the spectrum, those guys go through a lot too. So,
Being able to have family support.
yeah, little stuff like that, the stuff people take for granted sometimes, is sometimes that's all they have in there,
Yeah.
So I think that would help. But it's just it's a tough bill. Tough bill. It sounds good, but I don't think it's good for the state though.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't had a chance to really go through it thoroughly. But some of the stuff I've seen in there, I highly disagree with, though. I don't see how that makes the state better or makes it safer
Yeah.
for people in there. And it's already, I've been there. It'll be me, and sometimes you'll have about, I want to say, maybe anywhere from 80 to 160 inmates that you're responsible for at one time. And then
Really?
it's also, you can't watch everybody all the time. So, that makes it tough. And then it also compromises their safety too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and also there's over 7,000 inmates in a 10-year span. You know, that is a lot. That is a lot. Now I know there's crime, and yeah, some people deserve to be in there, but we've got to figure out, you know, like I say, what steps can we make to get the crime down? And I think, like you say, we should figure that out together as a whole. But it looks, from what I've seen, it's it's hard for them to work together up there.
So you said 80 to 160 inmates potentially at one time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It'll be like, well,
I mean,
you'll
that's
have,
double. The 80, 160 is
yeah.
double 80.
Well, I mean,
So is 80 what is I know education more than I do.
okay, well, it'll be like,
So like a teacher, it's like you don't want more than like a 1 to 25 or a 1 to 30, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what's the goal if you were properly staffed?
It's okay.
What's
Well,
ideal?
let's say a barracks is broke down into you'll have two sides. You'll have one which houses 35. You'll have one which houses 47. And there's supposed to be two to each side, but there's usually you might have somebody else on the other side, and they'll be responsible for about, I want to say, about 70 to 80 people, and like so on the other side. So even with that alone, I mean, it's still tough, but like I say, it's tough. And then being, you never know when something's gonna happen. So that's just a dangerous situation to be in.
Yeah. I'm assuming the job probably caused a lot of stress.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Most definitely. I don't even think I'm the same anymore, but very aware of my surroundings, I want to say, Sometimes it's hard to get relaxed. You see stuff, like I say, you see a lot of things you don't normally see.
Yeah.
Some of it can be traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely. But and then also when it comes to treatment, I think they could get better treatment in some of these state facilities too, as far as the infirmaries are.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as infirmaries are, like, sometimes they'll treat a person like you have to be almost dead to get in there sometimes. But it's more definitely it has its effects. It has its effects. But yeah.
Yeah. And I know that that's not easy to describe to people who wouldn't know what to expect or really be able to comprehend like me.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to go too deep into it, but
Sure.
describing stuff like that. So, but you see stuff you wouldn't usually see. I'll leave it at that. And some of it definitely sticks with you.
Yeah. How did you come by deciding to do that job when you took it?
Uh, Actually, a good friend of mine, like a brother to me. He was like, "Man, this is what I'm doing now. I'm out here." I said, and I never thought about doing nothing like that. So, but I was like, I'm gonna put in the application, and if they called me, I'm gonna go. So they did, And I went and it's, it was an experience, but that's how I got there though. And I ended up staying
Yeah,
for a while.
how long were you there?
About 10 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And you just get you miss a lot of stuff too.
Mm.
You know, think about it. Miss a lot of stuff and every holiday, you know. So you miss a lot of time with your loved ones, you know, so you make certain sacrifices. Yeah, tough job. Tough job. Not enough pay. Definitely not enough pay. Yeah. Good benefits, but
But that's it.
yeah, that's it. Good benefit. A couple good benefits. But I think at the end of the day, that type of work, you need more money. Plenty of people come out with like PTSD and stuff like that, and you know, could cause you to have a drinking problem. You know, it's a stressful job.
And like when you were a corrections officer, like did it ever were you ever like, hey, there are just these random people in Little Rock making choices for me and all of these people here? Like, did those dots ever connect for you then? Or were you just trying to make it through the day?
Yeah, at that point in my life, I was just
Yeah.
happy to get out of there. To be honest, just happy. Okay,
Yeah.
I made it through safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go home, enjoy
That's
these
fair.
couple of days because you have to go right back.
Yeah.
And I see the thing about it, you worked there half a year.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've basically spent about 5 years in prison, I want to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what it really, time wise.
I guess now that you're not there anymore and you do the work that you do, trying to inform people and get them plugged in, is it kind of surreal to think about that? Like to see this criminal justice legislation and you're like, oh, I like that's what I did. And
Yeah.
are they even talking to people who had my job or who, think that's always so interesting to me. And we saw that, I think, with what happened with teachers and the Learns Act it was like, again, another profession that is stressful for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different reasons and not inherently dangerous per se, but stressful and all encompassing, I think, for teachers in some ways. And so like they have been busy all the time just doing their jobs, and then like something so big is coming down the pike and they're like, whoa, did they even ask us how we feel about this? Or
I haven't talked to anybody personally,
yeah.
but I'm pretty sure I know some people who are really into it wholeheartedly, so I'm pretty sure they had their opinions on it. And I think someone would agree when I say the number one thing is like, okay, you know, that's gonna affect the person that's on the door. You know, that's not affecting those people that are down there making those laws. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to walk those halls, so you wouldn't know. You don't understand. You know what I mean? But when I say I believe that's definitely going. I hope it doesn't, but you know, things might get worse in there in the prison system as far as violence because of those people who committed those violent crimes on the list will have to do 100% of their time. And I think that's just going to change a lot of people's whole attitude when they're in there mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you're taking away somebody's hope. It feels like, even though you've made a mistake, you know, you did do what you did, but you should have another opportunity at life. And like I say, 100%. I know I wouldn't. That definitely I wouldn't want to go back, knowing that. Yeah, I just feel like I'm in more danger than what I would be. And not only us, just other inmates as well. You know, the ones that are in there for violent crimes. You know what I mean? You putting them in a more dangerous situation now.
Right.
You know, what do I don't care. You know, I wouldn't go to work. I wouldn't do nothing. If I was in there and I wouldn't, why? You've taken everything. I'm not getting out. I got to do 100% of, let's say, 20 years. What reason would I have to listen to anybody in there?
Yeah.
I don't. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Any parting thoughts or other things you want people to know?
Now, when inmates get out, I think they've made it harder to if you want to re-register to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they've made that process harder. I think now they want you to have there's an original birth certificate. Also on the parole board, I think they made it harder for you to make parole now, which is it's already tough because a lot of those guys, and the reason a lot of those prisons are full because some of those guys don't even have. It's hard to make parole. First of all, you have somewhere to parole, and then you have to go to the parole board, and I feel like the parole board is already a little more tougher than what they should be. Because I've seen guys that I'm like, okay, I think this guy, me personally, I've seen guys that don't cause problems at all. I think they should be let go, but time and time again, it's like they'll send them up there just to send them up there.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys would tell me, yeah, I'm going to parole, but I already know I'm gonna be rejected. You know what I mean? So
why do you think like the bill sponsors, when they go up there in front of their colleagues and they talk about this, they make it sound like the state prisons are just like opening the doors and letting everybody loose? Like that's the way they make it sound, is that like the state right now doesn't know how to do, like can't keep the people it needs to keep. So they're just like letting out all of these violent people instead of requiring them to fulfill their sentence. Is that accurate in your experience? Or because what I'm hearing you say is like it's hard to get out.
It's hard. It's hard for them to get out. Well, I mean, they go up, but like I say, a lot of them know already they're gonna get rejected before they even go up. So they they a lot of them. That's all I've heard that so many times.
Well, and this is really interesting hearing you say this, because I think like, and I'm getting a little into the abstract here, so hang with me.
Okay.
That's how I like to talk. Sometimes it's not super practical, but it helps me understand like there's something not adding up, right? And like,
yeah.
It's like we've got this situation where our state leaders, they don't know how to fix it, right? There's like a fire at a building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're carrying these buckets of water and like throwing it on a campfire next door. Like they're not actually, but they're like, look at these flames. And they're like, I don't have a proper analogy for it, but it's like what I am learning through this process is that like, we are not actually arresting the people who are out there committing the violent crimes right now. Like the people running rampant in our communities and making our communities unsafe. Like a lot of those crimes go unreported. And then the ones that do go reported, some of them, those people don't get arrested. And then of those people that get arrested, some of them don't get prosecuted. And so like, we're not putting our attention on the right things. Instead, we're like, well, here's this system where we can control it because we can throw more money at it or do these kinds of like, well, let's change this program, or like, let's take this name and change it to this and it sounds better. And let's make a big deal about this because this is what we know how to do.
Yeah.
But this other thing is too hard. So we're not gonna, and we're gonna make it sound like it's this thing. Like this is the thing that's causing the problem. All these people getting out and then they're the ones committing crimes again. And it's like, well, that's not even, they were already in there and like the crime is still exploding. So what is it that like, that's the part I think that like, do people in Arkansas know that? Like, I didn't know that we're not arresting the people who are actually committing the crimes. Like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's things you could be focusing on over here, but like harder and it's riskier because we don't have like a playbook to do that. So it's like, oh, well, that's too hard and too complicated. So let's just throw money at this and hope people don't notice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or like, and then to your point, like it's just making people's lives more dangerous in that situation. Like we're just endangering people that had your job even more. And like we already can't get people to work those jobs because it's so dangerous. And so it's like we're making that little bubble even worse. But it sounds good to people because they don't see that the problem's actually over here.
Yeah.
Right? Or am I totally wrong?
No, I agree. I agree. Like I said, I think we need to figure out what can we do to, to get crime down. Well, I mean, let's focus on communities and that's the start. I think that's a good start. It's focus on definitely some of these minority communities, I want to say. Which I feel like don't get a lot of attention from the city, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they want you to focus on that, and there's plenty of other problems in Arkansas that we could work on.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we're like cutting taxes and divesting in public schools and doing all of these things that are just going to take away really important services for people in those communities that are struggling. Like we had this really good bill that was going to increase the SNAP asset limit for you to get on food stamps. And it's like all of these, kind of extreme right policy people don't like it because they're like, you shouldn't be able to save money while you're on but that's how people can break the cycle of poverty is like, you got to let them save. Like people can't just keep living paycheck to paycheck or day by day and get out of that. Like you've got to break it somehow. And so like, wouldn't you want people to be able to slowly build a safety net for themselves by saving or investing or like whatever it is? And that got, the governor took that and was like, no, I'm not going to sign that. They got to fix that. And it was bipartisan and it's like proven to actually help people get out of poverty. So like we kneecap these programs and then we take money that could go to those programs and we build new prisons. And that to me is just like mind boggling. Like we're just going to have to keep building prisons because like we're not actually fixing the things that will help reduce crime in the long term.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So
100%. I agree with that 100%. Most definitely. And then, yeah. I think if you put that money into people instead of prisons, we become better.
I love that. Put money into people instead of prisons.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Yeah. I really do mean that. Like, I think there are good people in Arkansas. Yeah.
This is not actually important really, but I was thinking about like you saying like, what incentive do people have to like change or behave or do good things like when they're incarcerated if you're like saying they're never going to get a chance? And like the Senate, yesterday there was a senator who was he got in trouble for trying to steal money from taxpayers last session. It's not funny, but like it kind of is in a weird way because he tried to make it funny. And they like, you know, took him through this ethics process. And then they said like the punishment is you're going to lose your seniority. So you were kind of at the top and now you're at the very bottom and get to pick everything last and all that stuff. And they reinstated his seniority this week, the last session. And like, that's just such a contrast from like this bill and from what those principles are. Is like, well, if somebody does something wrong, they need to 100% like they gotta do their time. And it's like they couldn't even like let this guy be at the bottom of the seniority for like 4 months before they decided to just give it back to him.
Shame on them.
And that's just gross. It's so gross because it's like this set of rules for all of these Arkansans, but then like, ooh, but these Arkansans can do whatever they want.
So you gotta, with that 100%, you gotta look at it like this. Look at it like this. Inmates will use the term flat, which just means this is the date I go home. No matter what I do, this is the date. So when you know that, you know, I know guys, they call it getting short. They'll just do whatever. Maybe they got the last 2 weeks. No matter what, I'm going home on this date. I'm going to behave however I want to.
Yeah.
So now you might have that attitude for the whole, let's say, whole 7, whole 8, 10 years I'm there. I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Why? Because I know no matter what I do.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Right.
If I do this program, that program, it doesn't matter. I'm still going home at that same date.
Do you think that will keep people from committing violent crimes? I think that's like their argument, right? Is like, well, if they know they're going to be in there full time, then they're not going to.
No, it's not going because they don't have any knowledge of it in the first place.
That's right.
They don't have any knowledge of it in the first place. And now, so they get go through the court process. That's when they'll know. But you know, like I said, most especially the like I say, we have one of the lowest turnouts, you know, in the US. So with that being said, common sense would tell you a lot of people don't know what's going on in politics in Arkansas. So if that's their selling point, then they're absolutely wrong. You know? I guarantee I could go there. I could ask. I guarantee about 70 out of 80 out of 100 people wouldn't know.
Yeah.
If I just went to ask random people on the street, they wouldn't know. And no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you can't.
I think that's what's so interesting about it, is like it sounds so just from a top level, you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you spend like 1 minute,
just
1 minute thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute. When someone's about to commit a violent crime, they're like, oh, hold on.
Yeah. Oh, I got that 100%.
I'm not going to do that because instead of 85% of the time,
I'll do 100.
I'll do it. Like, that's so insane.
Yeah.
That's not what deters people.
No, it definitely won't.
It's so, I don't know if you know anything about people at all, if you've ever been around people in any kind of capacity, you're just going to know that that's like not.
I don't know if they're doing it for the people, and maybe he's doing it because it looked good.
That's exactly right. Well, it
just looks good. It looks good.
That's what that dichotomy is, right? It's like, and you nailed it on, like you hit the nail on the head. You were like, is this really about keeping people out of prison or making our community safer? No.
About money.
It's about money and looking like we're solving a problem, but we're not. But we look like we are.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep doing that. And then if that doesn't work, we're just going to say we need more of it because we didn't do enough. We're just going to keep building prisons. And, there was a representative on the House floor today. He spoke against the bill, and he was like, we're not like the only way that you can ensure someone doesn't commit a crime again is to lock them up forever. And he was like, are we going to start doing that? He was like, because that's the only way that you can guarantee it. It doesn't mean if they've served 90% of their time or 100% or 110% or 60%. There's no way to know. And the only way you can know that they're not going to commit, that 10% matters or not, is if you keep them in jail forever. And we're not, maybe that's what we're planning on doing. I don't know. It's just not working. It's not working.
It's going to be tough. 100%. It's going to be tough. You're changing the attitude of a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
It's already such a stressful situation. It's tough. Just imagine, hey, no matter what you do in there, you're not going home till that certain date.
Yeah.
And I don't think how does that rehabilitate you?
Right.
I don't know how that rehabilitates anybody. If anything, that makes you off worse. I think that makes you worse. I think you'll be more. The percentages I think will be higher of you being a repeat offender now because of that. If you ask me.
So this could very well do the opposite of what they say it's going to do.
Yeah, I believe so. I truly believe so. If we really wanted to rehabilitate people, we would focus on more programs that could turn into real world jobs. I think that's where, if they wanted to put money somewhere, they should have done that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Richard, for your time and your work and sharing your experience with us. We appreciate it. And I hope that some lawmakers will listen and read and consider, lived experiences of people that this policy will impact. So thanks for sharing with us, and
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching and or listening. Again, we are 4AR people, and we're here to connect the dots for everyday Arkansans so that they can see how policy affects their everyday lives. Head over to our website, 4arpeople.org, to sign up for our newsletter. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. Thanks again. See you next time.